Hello and thank you for listening to Willow Talk, back with another episode. Adam Peacock with Brad Haddin. Hads, how are you?
Mate, I'm good. I'm really excited about today, and you know why.
Well, there's cricket everywhere happening.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but
Next
we've got
one.
a special guest.
Yeah.
Who is it? Your good mate.
Ryan Harris.
Ryan Harris.
And the most successful coach ever in South Australia's history as we stand.
Do you want me to make that the intro?
Well, it's
For him?
obvious.
Okay. With all due respect to all former South Australian coaches, but yes, Ryan Harris got off to a great start this week with South Australia in the One Day Cup, yet to be named One Day Cup.
Yeah.
I can't believe they're going a whole summer without actually naming it. Hopefully they bleed it out over summer and make a big deal out of it.
Simo and Dino's name have come up a lot.
I think it's down to 3.
You reckon? Or Bevo?
Yeah. You have to chuck.
Well, he owned it.
Exactly.
Every time he was in the team. I remember playing a game against WA in the final. And he just decided he was going to win.
Fair enough.
So we celebrated. Michael Bethan got 130 not out. He had the shits with Tom Moody the whole time because they said they're going to bounce him.
Yeah.
And before the game, he just said, well, I'll win it. We were sort of looking at each other thinking, well, what's he talking about? By the end of the game, we just said, oh, mate, you see the game different to us.
There you go. I think he's favourite for that One Day Cup. Anyway, they can't go wrong with that name. We're going to recap the Aussie men's and women's white ball series against England and New Zealand, midstream with the men in England, done with the Kiwis. They got on a flight, the Australian women, 2 hours after the game because there's a 2 a.m. flight, or 4 hours after the game, 2 a.m. flight out of Brisbane to Dubai.
Yeah. Best way to do it sometimes.
That's a weird flight.
No, it's the best way.
Yeah.
Get straight on the flight. You sleep on the flight. Give them an extra day recovery when they get there. Go around Dubai. Midge will be playing golf, I'd imagine. But sometimes it's the best way to do it. Sleep on the flight. They would have turned left and not right when they got on the flight. So.
Correct, or walked upstairs.
Oh, the captain would have. The captain would have.
A380. Yeah. Well, they arrived 10 a.m. in Dubai, so that's plenty of time for an afternoon tea time for the captain, I dare say. Shout out to Heels as well. We're going to have a look at the first few matches of the Men's One Day Cup and some great fast bowling performances as well. As mentioned, we're going to have Ryan Harris on the show, and we're going to finish with Sundries. Now, before we get into it, we're still after your club cricket caps for us to wear on the show, and we've got another one in here today, and it's an absolute beauty that Hads is wearing on the show. You'll see it on the social media clips we'll put out from the things we're about to say, but it's sent in by Lindsay Mamone from Woolgoolga Cricket Club. He's the senior club coach and junior coordinator. So they're called the Rebels, and Lindsay sent in this note. Hi, Willow Talk team. We're excited to send you our trucker cap for this season. They're part of the Coffs Harbour District Cricket Association, and it's the beautiful coastal town of Woolgoolga in New South Wales. Been there a few times, driven through it. My mum actually used to go to Woolgoolga for holidays, oddly enough.
And the Spice Festival.
And there's a curry festival as well.
Yep.
Big Indian population there, or first generational Indian immigrants who have come out to Australia, and a lot of them settled in Woolgoolga. It's quite, I think from memory, they've got this massive big elephant as you drive into town. Just looking at you, blowing its trunk. So there you go.
I'll tell you what they do is make a very, very good trucker cap.
Comfortable?
So this is the best one we've had by a mile.
It's a good logo too.
Yeah,
it's
good
a
logo.
lion holding a cricket bat, getting all angry.
Yeah, comfortable.
Yeah.
Very comfortable. Keep sending them in. Sam, producer, if he doesn't nick them, we'll get them on the show.
Exactly. Now, Lindsay goes on to say, Google Woolgoolga to check out the amazing beaches. Don't try and say that 10 times too quickly after 6 beers, by the way. That's an achievement in itself. We're incredibly fortunate to play and train in such a stunning location. They've got a fantastic the Woolgoolga Sports Complex. Hopefully I've said that correctly. They pride themselves on being diverse, family-friendly and welcoming to all. We're supported by dedicated volunteers, amazing sponsors and passionate players across all levels, from Woolworths Blast programs to both junior and senior cricket, and we're always working closely with Cricket New South Wales to continue growing the game we love. Thanks so much for putting on such a great podcast. Our pleasure, Lindsay. It's a favourite among our players and coaches, and we always look forward to tuning in. Well, you've got a big shout-out today. Thank you for sending in that lovely note, and that's grassroots cricket to a T. Hads, all those things going on in Woolgoolga.
Mate, they're doing all the right things, and the one thing every cricketer likes is good kit. And this hat's a really good start.
Absolutely. So good luck for the impending season, which has no doubt got underway up there in Woolgoolga. Thank you, Lindsay, for that. And keep them coming in to producer Sam. All the mailing details are in the episode notes. as you listen to this podcast. We're going to get rolling now with the big stuff. The two white ball series, Australia-England, midstream. Australia lead the series 2-1. We're recording this podcast in the hours after Game 3. So recapping, Game 1, Australia won by 7 wickets with 6 overs to spare. Travis Head went Burko, 154 not out, and chimed in with the ball with 2 wickets as well. Marnus, 77 not out and 3 for 39. Game 2, Australia by 68 runs. Alex Carey in the runs, Mitch Starc in the wickets. Game 3, England won by 46 runs there in the northeast up in Durham by the Duckworth-Lewis system. They were cruising to victory in the 38th over. You would assume, unless they were late wickets, but they were well ahead of the game, England, when the rain came. Alex Carey, more runs, 77. Harry Brook got going, though. Is he temporary captain, is he? I guess, with Joss Butler out, 110 not out. No Adam Zampa, though. He was out with illness. What do you make of it all?
Well, there's a common denominator in the loss. Adam Zampa. He's been the one when guys like Harry Brook are going in the middle. He's the one that's come in and got vital wickets all the time to stop the scoreboard. An interesting little fact I've seen about with Australia's winning streak, who's the only other player outside Adam Zampa to be involved in all 14?
See, Bradley, it's a silly question because I've got the same list you've got in front of me.
Well, it's interesting because Marnus is the answer.
Marnus is the answer.
But
14.
he wasn't in the World Cup squad.
No.
So he got called into the World Cup squad. And
what happened again? How did he get called in?
I can't even remember. But what I can remember, he's been involved in all 14 games.
Yeah, Agar got taken out.
Agar, yep.
Yeah, and then he got put in. And, yeah, well, our fielding standards are back in this series. Have you noticed?
Well, that was the one thing he brought through the World Cup. Himself, David Warner, Steve Smith. Fielding can become a contest.
Wasn't there at the T20 World Cup, was it?
No, not like this. He just brings that energy. But I tell you what, the other thing, what about the heater Travis Head's on? I watched that first game, 154, and the shots he was playing. He was in total control with everything he was doing. It sometimes you think, at any stage this could come undone. But I tell you what, he's hitting balls to extraordinary parts of the ground, and you could just see on the bowler's face, where do I bowl? He was still and hitting through leg side. He also has found that shot over cover. We know how good he is square at the wicket, but he's on an absolute heater at the moment. It's great to watch.
He opens, doesn't he, this summer? It's pointing in that direction.
Well, if you look at his white ball form, you'd say yes. But if you sit back and look at how well he's played and how he's changed momentums in games in test matches, it's hard to move him from that middle order. I haven't seen someone play that way and be so influential on a game till Adam Gilchrist in that style, because he comes out, he makes batting easier for everyone around him. It becomes hard to bowl. You can't stop his scoring when he's going. Gilly was exactly the same. At times he'd just go, and you forget about the guy at the other end. He's just sort of 1-2 feeding the strike, and all of a sudden he's gone from 20 to 85 without you knowing, because everyone's worried about what Travis Head's doing. So I don't know what they're going to do.
I've got a feeling they're going this way because they see him as like for David Warner.
Well, so is Mitch Marsh.
True.
He's been opening. He didn't get many runs last night, Mitch, but it was tough conditions. A couple of times he'd left the ball and Archer got in under his ribs. But his technique looked good. So he could be the option. Well,
Travis Head didn't play in the third game, by the way. That's why England.
Or Zampa didn't even. That's why we lost.
Yeah, exactly. Amazing. It kind of snuck up on us, didn't it, with the win streak, and it got to within sight, and it remains though the winning streak of the longest ever. I think it was 22 overtime, but 14. It's a damn good winning streak, especially when you chuck in a World Cup with it as well.
Well, I think that's the most impressive thing. It's that streak's in the middle of a World Cup, and it shows that this team's peaking at the right time. But outside the World Cup, they've tried some different players. Like you look down that list, Sean Abbott and Hardy have played 5 games.
And scored quick runs as well, Hardy, in the third game, which was good to see.
Yeah, it was. I'm not worried about Hardy's batting. The one thing, I think he might be in the next group of batters to come into the Australian team. I see
Test
him,
team, you say?
yeah, I see him that high regard as in the way he bats. But what about his new ball bowling?
Hmm. Well, it's been needed on this tour.
Well,
with everyone
he's
going down.
swinging the ball.
Yeah.
Yes, you can have raw pace up the top to unsettle top orders, but if you can swing the ball the way he does, mate, we're blessed with the all rounders we've got, especially with the way he's bowling. So it's been good to watch.
How important for Harry Brook that he did that?
Oh, I think it's just.
Come on, give England some credit.
No,
here.
I'll give him a little bit. I think it's just more satisfying for him. He's got a lot of talent, Harry Brook. We've seen that in the Test team, but his first one-day 100. The other thing is that they've challenged him a bit and given him the captaincy. And he was under a little bit of criticism in the first couple of games. Was playing a bit too rash, but the way Brook and Jack played, that they controlled the momentum of the game better. It wasn't just bash, bash, bash. It was a bit more craft. So it shows he's learning. That they're looking maybe for a new one-day captain. Is Josh Butler going to come in? I seen Ben Stokes said an interesting thing in an interview mid-game where they said, what would happen if new coach Brendan McCullum asked you to come back in?
You preempted me. I've been looking forward for days to ask you this one.
Well, we've spoken about it on
Yeah.
air and off, and it's just sort of starting to gather momentum. He said, I'm definitely. So is he going to be the white ball captain at the next World Cup or big event?
But that sounds like the very nature of the fact that I would definitely return if he asks. These two have got the closest relationship I can remember of a coach and captain. Like, they're so on the same page. Like, why are you dancing this dance? Just say, yeah, I'm coming back.
Well, I think they're dancing the dance because Ben Stokes don't want to lose from Test cricket, and can his body handle another form of the game? England's Test cricket's been great. If someone like Harry Brooks starts to blossom into a good leader, you might not need to bring someone like Ben Stokes back to for those big tournaments. So I think that's what they're just sitting around waiting to see what happens there. So. Yeah, it's always an option there, but I think their first option would be that they hope the squad that they've got develop into a really strong one-day team.
Australian women v New Zealand. Oh, by the way, that fourth game, Australia-England, Friday, Lords. Getting a bit close to winter over there and crap weather in England. So we'll wait and see if we get games on for these last two.
Oh, Lord's lunch. They wouldn't be that disappointed, the Aussies, to miss that one.
Now, the Australia Women New Zealand T20 series got it done 3-0. Pushed a little in various patches, especially the third game, which was on Tuesday night in Brisbane before they hopped on the plane, got all the... Gee, your logistics game has to be bang on, doesn't it? You pack before the game, make sure everything's ready. Okay, get your, the stuff that you need with your backpack on board and pack what you need to pack, your coffins away. It was a big planning exercise, but they've obviously done it well. Okay, recapping. Game 1, Australia won by 5 wickets, 8 balls to spare. Phoebe Litchfield, Hads, was on the group chat. Yes, you just put the one word, Phoebe. Well done.
Best ever, eventually.
64 not out of 43 deliveries. Ash Gardner was ruled out after colliding with Georgia Wareham in the warm-ups. We've been here before, haven't we? With
Stay away from warm-up games.
How vivid in the memory is 2005 and G. McGrath?
Mate,
still.
It's the most high-profile one. But the thing about warm-up games, if you put 20 blokes together or 20 people in a team together,
with a footy,
there's 3 or 4 that have white line fever. and I've seen in warm-up games, people take elbows out, you slide tackles. My biggest thing in warm-up games before you're about to play was whatever ball or end the ball was at, I was at the opposite end.
Okay.
Because you have people take you out.
Culprit, number one culprit.
Mate, John Buchanan.
Really?
Mate, he was the worst.
Ned Flanders.
Mate, he was him and Simo. It was like, mate, Gordon Tallis and bloody
Shane Webke.
Webke going after New South Wales. With Big Chief Harrigan.
John Buchanan.
Mate, he was as competitive as anyone in those. He got the misty eyes. And
did he blow up?
Mate, they blew up. You just had to stay away because he was elbows and arms everywhere, and you just think, stay away.
So the most nerdy bloke and the most considered and deep thinking and all of that just turned into an utter shirts off bogan,
mate.
In the warm-up.
Game on, yeah. I don't like warm-up games. So at training, you can play.
Yeah.
But I didn't like them going because it's one slide tackle, a little spike in the shin. How many times a physio had to quickly stitch someone's shin up with a couple of stitches after one of those games? They play one now called Ted ball. It's a bit like volleyball, where they got to kick it. I don't know. I used to stay away.
Fair enough. Because the McGrath one wasn't warm-up, was it? It was just a ball that was left there.
Shot on a ball.
Where were you when that happened? Close by?
Blames me for throwing a bad pass. I would have hit him on the chest.
So it wasn't your fault?
No.
Whose fault was it?
Glenn's.
I wasn't paying attention. Cost us a test match. Cost us an Ashes. Anyway.
You played the next test?
Yeah, I know. But we let that one slip. He plays that test. Win the test.
But that was umpiring decision.
They don't carry on.
Remember Casper had his hand and bring it off the bat?
Yeah. But you control what you can control, Bradley.
Get your decisions right.
Anyway, game 2, by the way, in this Australia Women v New Zealand T20 series. Australia won by 29 runs. Lisa Healy, 38 off 25. 62 short of the quickest century of all time.
Sharjah.
Yes, happening. Ash Gardner was back for this one, 3 for 16 off 4. And game 3, Australia always in control, pretty much. It was a contest. It was a good contest. But Wareham 2 for 21 and 26 off 16, batting at 3. Always a step ahead. The team is, as you listen to this, now in the Middle East. Warm-up matches against England on Sunday night and the West Indies next Wednesday, ahead of their opening game against Sri Lanka on Saturday, October 5. England dropped a game against Ireland warming up, which I found extraordinary.
Yeah, don't read too much into it. The Australian series was perfect. Yes, we got the result 3-0, which you always want to against New Zealand. But having a look, everyone got out of it what they needed. They got put under pressure at times, which you need. Not too much leading into the World Cup because you want to make sure you're peaking at the right time. But as far as series goes, this was a perfect preparation. Everyone got what they needed.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's business as usual. Get ready for the first game.
Now, correction from last week. This is rare, by the way, from the Willow Talk research team. We said that Australia hasn't lost the Rose Bowl series this century. While that is technically true, that is for one-day series, not T20s. Australia has an 11-4 series record over New Zealand in T20s. The mailbag was full of irate messages from New Zealand this week. So apologies to our Kiwi friends. A lot of sympathy for them, Bradley. Moving on to domestic cricket. Domestic cricket underway in full swing. Okay, we'll go back to the weekend. New South Wales beat WA in the season opener, thanks to Josh Phillips' 139 off 119. Good knock?
Great knock. What I like about Josh Phillips' knock, he made the big decision to move states. He was probably treading water a little bit in WA. He's behind a few players like Inglis and Bancroft there, but he's made the brave move. By all reports, he's had a really good off-season, and that's exactly what you want to do in the first game. The other big one out of that was Jai Richardson, 5 wickets. I think that's a great story. We know he's had some poor injury history, so to have him back firing, and you talk about making sure guys are peaking at the right time, we need him available around that pink ball test.
Yeah, so 5 for 63. You're a massive fan of Jai Richardson.
Massive.
If fit, for you, and we'll ask Ryan Harris about the fast bowling stocks. If fit, if 100%, say all of them 100%, he's next cap?
I think so.
Okay.
I think his skill set and pace is world class. His wrist to be able to swing the ball both ways. If everyone's fit, I think he's next in line.
Moses Enriquez did a hammy.
Yeah,
not good for an elder statesman, a hammy.
Yeah, it's disappointing because the role he plays is a really important role with this young New South Wales batting lineup. But as far as injuries go, it's probably a good time to get it because you've got the Australian players available to play the first few Shield games, so he doesn't have to push to get right. Where you want Moses and he'll contribute most is when the Australian players are gone.
Yep.
So he won't feel like he has to rush his preparation. And the other thing is, young Sam Constance wasn't in that first New South Wales team. And we've got to get as much cricket as we can.
You're a wrap on him.
I'm a huge wrap. And I know talking to a lot of people there that It's like a Michael Clark player when they come through. They're different.
Whoa.
You knew when they walked in that they're always destined to go to the next level. So, yeah, as disappointing is for Moses, he'll be in and around the squad, so he can still offer advice to the kids. But it might be a great opportunity now to throw young Constancy.
Now, down in Melbourne on a filthy, cold, beautiful spring Melbourne day, Sam Elliott steps up, and Dad Matt, I don't think he was at the game. He was on the way or something like that, I read. 7 for 12, Big Sammy. Best one-day figures for Victoria as the Vicks beat Tassie by 4 wickets. Tassie bowled out for 126, bit in the deck.
Yep.
And had the Vicks 6 for 72. Will Sutherland, probably Victoria's most important player in the modern day, he steered them home with Sam, who not only did what he did with the ball, but 19 not out with the bat. Fantastic day out for the youngster.
Mate, great day out. 7 for 12 to kick off the season. As we've spoken about for a long time, he wanted as many fast bowlers available and putting pressure on and making the mark in state cricket. The big thing out of the game was, the wicket was spicy, but Will Sutherland, captain, he's a gamer. This kid, when he's got the ball in his hand or the bat or in the field, he took an unbelievable reflex catch at first slip. You mightn't see a better one this year, but he just plays the situation. He's got really good cricket IQ. He got 36 not out, which doesn't look like much, but in the context of this game, mate, good knock and watch him. I expect really big things from Will this year.
Yeah, on the stat sheet, he's played 2 of those 14 games for Australia. I think you've got to go in the West Indies series over summer or at the end of last summer. So more potential Australian representation available to him in a stacked field when it comes to all-rounders. Got us thinking, like obviously Will's dad ran cricket for a while and good cricketer himself, James.
Yep.
But Sam's dad, Matt, played for Australia. Who's the best son of a gun? Is it Marsh boys? Is it Stuart Broad? His dad played open for England, obviously. Now a match referee. Or here's one for Chris Cairns. I know it's hard to give a Kiwi credit, but Lance Cairns was, for those listeners who don't remember, Lance Cairns could hit a ball into the next suburb.
Yep.
He was incredible. And Chris was along the same lines, obviously a powerful all-rounder. But who's the best out of that lot? Or is there someone else you're going to pluck?
No, I think out of that lot, like Stuart Broad's record is, mate, great from an Aussie point of view. Mate, you got Dan Marsh too. Dan Marsh and Rod. Dan was a very good state cricketer. But you're never going to get me to say anything bad about the Marsh boys.
Fair enough.
Mate, they're a great family. Jeff, Sauce, Mitch.
Yep.
Mate, you want to have a beer with them after a win.
South Australia, the other match we're going to talk about here. So on Tuesday at Cricket Central, they're playing these games in New South Wales. It's probably right to do. They got a little look at this during COVID, but just centralise it a bit. Don't have people flying around all over the place to not waste money, but there's money better directed elsewhere if you're going to spend it like that. But South Australia, great game again, chasing 167 to win. WA were cruising at 3 for 133, and then they went the tonk 1, 2, 3, got out and got themselves in a bit of bother, and they ended up losing 7 for 31 to lose by 2 runs. Now we'll talk to Ryan Harris shortly about the ins and out of this, but what stuck out at you in terms of performance from this particular game?
Oh, the obvious ones, Nathan McAndrew got 5 wickets, and Bryce Jackson, who looks another good prospect, 6 for 30. But that's not what stood out to me in this game. Nathan McSweeney's captaincy actually stood out. He was brave enough to take the game on when he needed to. His team looked gone. South Australia have had not a lot of success over the last few years. So the way he controlled the game off the back of the style that they're trying to play. This is a Ryan Harris coach team. And to me, and we'll talk to Rhino later, never out of the contest. He'd be saying to his players, I don't care what happens, we're always in this contest. So to me, it looked like Ryan Harris has put a bit of steel into this South Australian team. So, mate, well done to Ryan. Made great performances across. Ben Menenti did good under pressure, but it's young McSween. Let's just watch how he develops as a captain.
Well, Cricket Australia obviously like him because they gave him the captaincy for the tour match against Pakistan, which got rained off when they got a storm at Manuka and didn't look after things. Got to improve that when you get down to Canberra, Bradley.
Government will look after that.
Yeah, fair enough. By the way, they swapped Quicks WA in their 2 games in Sydney in the last week. So they gave Jai Richardson a game, and then he stepped out. And Lance Morris, 2 players, obviously had all kinds of injury worries. Lance stepped up with 3 for 42, which is good to see him take a few wickets as well. He's got talent and scary pace. Talking to a few guys who have faced him in the nets.
Yeah, you want guys like Lance Morris now to dominate state cricket.
Last one before we get to a drinks break and come back with Ryan Harris. I did notice in these 2 games there were a couple of run-outs at Cricket Central. There was one where Darcy Short had his stumps thrown down while Cam Bancroft just dropped one and took off and said, "Oh, yes, by the way, you can come through now, Darcy." And Darcy didn't get there in time, out without facing a ball. A few days earlier, Ollie Davies, who was feeling pretty good about himself, I think he was on 9.
Yeah.
Backing up, bowler gets a touch. Off you go, Ollie. See you later. That's the end of your day with the bat. Which is worse?
Oh, at least Ollie got the opportunity to hit one in the middle. Darcy didn't get any opportunity to whatsoever. He didn't look like he took it that well, Darcy, as he stormed off.
How can you take that well?
Well, the only way you can take it is you're not hitting the ball back. You're still in good form. Yeah.
Have you ever been done?
Yeah.
That?
First ball the whole season I got done. I've told you this before.
Yeah, with all
just walk off.
Your future wife's family there.
You've got to remember, yes, it's a mental game, cricket. We talk about 90% of it's up here.
Yeah.
You're not in bad form.
No.
You've had bad luck. So get off, put your pads on, and when you get to 30 next game, cash in. Get 130.
You got a while to stew on it as well. I do wonder if Darcy gave Cameron some advice as he walked back into the sheds when he eventually got back there.
He wouldn't have gave him any on the field, but he would have gave some constructive criticism to him in the change room.
I bet.
I don't think Bancroft would have heard it.
Fair enough. Off to a quick drinks break on Willow Talk. Back with Ryan Harris. Yes, joining us now, as it sits on the record, Hads, with statistical information, South Australia's most successful coach of all time, as we sit here right now. Ryan Harris, how are you, mate?
G'day, boys. Nice to chat again.
Hads made me say that.
Yeah,
well,
I bet he did.
We've got big breaking news today, actually.
Yeah.
Ryan Harris is retiring from coaching.
He's one and done.
The best record ever.
One and done, yeah.
Rhino, congratulations, mate. How'd that feel, first up?
Oh, yeah, obviously great to win. Probably like to do it a little bit in better circumstances, obviously. But I think, ultimately, look, the wicket was a bit tough. Was tough yesterday. We found that when we batted, although some of our dismissals probably weren't towards the wicket. But we knew it was probably deteriorating, and we had a good attack that would suit a wicket that would be up and down, and we had to just go out and bash the wicket and create pressure. Obviously against WA, who have been the benchmark for the competition now for the last couple of years, it was always going to be tough. But the boys stuck at it. All I've asked for these guys is to obviously play to their potential, but no matter what happens, whether with bat or ball, we just go out and fight until that last ball's bowled or last run's made, and they did that again yesterday. And I think it's a credit to them to not give up. I think our new captain Nathan McSweeney was exceptional yesterday. He rolled the dice with the bowls and probably he ran out just in time at the end. But then Liam Scott stepped up and Ben Menenti stepped up to take those last couple of wickets. So it was an all-round good effort.
Yeah, we just had a chat about exactly how it all panned out during the day, so we won't revisit that. But from your perspective, so you're the coach, you're looking to improve these players, and you've set, your standards and all of that, and had the team meetings and had the pre-season, but then you're sitting there and watching it all unfold. Does it change from what you think how you'd react, or how were you during those stages?
Yeah, I wasn't good. Put it that way, I wasn't good. All the anger management towards everything was thrown out the door within about probably within about 2.5 hours of the season. So it wasn't ideal. But no, again, that's something I've got to work on, and I've got a great assistant coach, or two great assistant coaches, but Steve Stubbins, who's become a really good mate of mine. We've done a lot of work over some leadership stuff over the winter, and I've given him a license to punch me in the arm if I start acting like an idiot. So he did that. He did that about 4 times yesterday. So we've got to start somewhere, but let's hope that I don't have to get punched too often. But the emotions are there. It's and Hads knows me better than anyone that I am an emotional, like, when it comes to this sport, and I was similar when I was a player, and I probably am worse than I'm as a coach, but it's me just managing that, and obviously now that the players can feel that, obviously they were all out in the field. We had 2 players sort of sitting in front of me that I had to bite my lip a little bit and bite my tongue and hold on to a few things, but it's me managing that and getting better, and hopefully giving them a good vibe, and it's definitely a work on, but I thought I was going good, but it didn't last very long.
You've seen it, Hads, have you? Who was the coach that you had, opposite to maybe how Ryan was in the middle of that, when WA are 3 for 133 and a few things are going on? Who was the coach, though, that you looked around and your career and saw was the calmest man in the room? It was like he'd just woken up on a beautiful Sunday and he'd just strolled down to get a coffee.
Well, the one thing Trevor Bayliss, his strength was no matter what the situation was, his tempo was even. But I've coached with Rhino and sat next to him.
Yeah.
And one of Rhino's biggest strength is, obviously his understanding of the game, but it is how emotionally invested he gets into it. But it'd be hard, Rhino, knowing your personality, to control those emotions and sit back from the outside and make sure you're giving what your strength is, your tactical genius to your team, your cricket IQ, without just giving them everything you want to give them at once?
Oh, it is, and that's something I have learned over time. As you know, I have changed a little bit, Hads, over the time we probably played, but I was a bull of the gate at everything I did. I still am in the back of my head, but how it all comes out now, I've had to filter it. And it's, as I said, it's still a work in progress. But yeah, look, yesterday even sitting there, wanting to, send out who should bowl and where the field should be, and that's all going through my head. But ultimately, that plays out now on the field, and as we all know, cricket's it's a tough game, but it's a bloody easy game sitting on the sideline, and we see things on the side that should be just common sense, but when you're out there in the heat of the moment, it's obviously not. And that's why I've got full faith and full trust in Nathan McSweeney. And I think, as a young captain, I think the way he dealt with that situation yesterday was outstanding. And he is a calm character, and that's why I think he's so popular with the guys as well, and obviously a good choice as our captain. So still filtering it and still getting used to it, but I'm definitely better at it. I don't throw too many instructions out unless there's something that I guess the coaching staff discuss and see, then the message will go out, but there's not too many now these days.
South Australia, I mean, it's a small community, Australian cricket, in the sense that there's only a finite number of options around the country to play professional cricket, and South Australia is one, but they've just been adverse to winning titles. Haven't won the Shield since 1996, haven't won the One Day Cup since 2012. So you come into the joint, Ryan, what are you trying to do? Are you trying to make players win or make players get better in order for higher honours?
No, my sole purpose, and I made this clear in my interview when I went through the process, was to come in and win. And as you say there, we have, there's a couple of stages to that. I mean, ultimately we want to win and win now. I feel as though, and this is part of the reason I moved back from Queensland for the last year's season, is I believe there's a group there that can have success, and that's what that I'm striving to do, and I was doing the same under Jason Gillespie. So I think that now is what we're after. The playing for Australia bit, we're here to do that anyway for me, and I don't want, we haven't been consistent enough to create players to do that over a long period of time, and we've obviously got Travis Head and Alex Carey and Jake Fraser-McGurk, who's coming from Victoria, Spencer Johnson, who's been in and out, but I don't want the boys focusing on that, and nor do I want the guys that have come from interstate to come here think they're in a pit stop trying to get to play for Australia. So one thing I've learned over the last 5 years or 5 to 7 years, and looking at WA, is that you have success. The Australian stuff takes care of itself. You naturally get picked because if you're winning games of cricket, you're winning trophies. you're naturally playing well and performing at a certain level that you get picked to play for Australia. So that I've made that quite clear to the players as well. There's no doubt, underlying fact that I want all these players playing for Australia, but ultimately first let's try and get the success, and then that'll take care of itself. And then the other part of that as well is we still have an eye on producing South Australian players, and that is a high priority of mine as well. And I believe, even being back now 18 months and looking at the way our pathways is formed, I believe that we're on the right track. We've got some great coaches in our pathways. We're still growing that as well, and that's going to be play a huge part in trying to get some more local players playing. But ultimately, at the time, or at now, and even the last few years, there probably hasn't been just enough to fill the positions that we need. That probably haven't performed high enough that they haven't been picked. But we're definitely looking at that as well. So there's a few factors there, but there's definitely a desire to win and desire to do well and have success now. And I said we've done a lot of stuff over the winter about our culture and what that looks like, and the players are all bought into that. And as I said, they're all talented enough. If they play to their capability and their potential, and have some consistency, then I believe that we'll be a tough side to beat, and that's what I've been trying to form.
Right, as a coach coming in, you have a 1 year, 2 year plan, but what's success look like? You just said there, okay, we want to win.
Yep.
But you sort of got to come into the environment and be realistic where things stand. Would success this year, okay, I've got to win the one-day comp and the Shield, or we've got to have X amount of South Australians debut, we've got to get X amount of games into this, and in year 2 and 3, we'd definitely be disappointed if you're not competing in the final?
Yeah, I think. Well, this year we've spoke a lot about that, Hads, and this year it is a final, if not a trophy. That's anything under that for me is going to be probably a failure. Is it probably a strong word, but underachieved. I think there's no doubt about that. And look, over time, I think that's probably the short-term goal. Over time, as you say, year 2 and 3 is to make sure that we're probably definitely competing. Not competing just this year, but we're competing onwards now for a couple of years, and that's where the consistency comes in, which I don't think we've had over the last, who knows how long. But, we've had good years. For instance, we played the one-day final 2 years ago and we finished bottom last year. So that or second bottom, that's not consistency. That's just, poor being inconsistent as possible. So I guess that, to answer your question, I think we want to sustain success and trying to get that over a period of time. And again, on top of that, or underlying that, is trying to get players, from South Australia again, playing well enough and getting them in our squads as well.
One thing I'm always interested with cricket is in Australia is the relationship between Cricket Australia and the States, and the advice you have to cop from Cricket Australia, namely the medical staff, about how you use your bowlers, especially the loads and all of that. But Jake Fraser-McGurk, obviously not a bowler, the exact opposite. So, firstly, from your perspective, where do you want to use him for South Australia? And secondly, do you expect to cop advice from Cricket Australia about how and where you use him?
I think that conversation's always there, and it's something that, ultimately, again, we want to have success and we want to do what's best for us. And I think if Cricket Australia come to us with a plan, what they think, I don't think it'd be too different to what we want. But if it was, then we'd want to hear the reasons why. Then we give the reasons why we want him to bat a certain place as well. So Jake for us would be, obviously at the top in one-day cricket, and ideally probably in the middle order. We tried him in red ball cricket. We tried him at the top in red ball cricket last year. We're probably trying to find a fix because our top order wasn't going so well, but it didn't quite work out for him in that position. So ideally he bats in the middle for our red ball stuff. But again, if you're talking about a bowler in that sense, it's just a discussion. I think Cricket Australia, that ultimately they're trying to get the best players playing for our country, and I accept that as well. And again, I haven't probably had too many conversations just yet around that, but I as long as the communication's there and the conversations are being had, there's not too many. I wouldn't have thought there'd be too many situations where we're, the opposite ends of the spectrum, where we want one thing from a player and they want the other. So again, the communication. I'm big on communication with my players and with my staff and even with my bosses above. That's the sort of stuff I'll be looking at. And I don't think, after speaking with Andrew McDonald and George Bailey during the winter, they're obviously big on that as well, and I think we've had some healthy conversations so far, but I guess those conversations will come up in the next couple of weeks. There's a big opening spot apparently open coming up, so that might be one conversation that might need to be had in the next few weeks.
I'd just love to hear the conversation if you copped advice about one of your bowlers about his loads are too much, and then you go back with, well, mate, in Cape Town in 2014, I bowled 147 over spell in a row, punching into the wind with my knee exploded. So you can take your loads and stick them up your... No, you've tempered those thoughts, mate?
Yeah, absolutely. And
how would you...
Go on.
How would you coach yourself, Rhino?
Oh, mate, that's a good question. I'm lucky I didn't have to be honest. But lucky I didn't have to. I think again, it's just, for me, it's common sense. It's not that hard. I mean, workloads now. I don't like the word. I don't like that word. It's making sure that the bowlers are at a certain level. We've got information that tells us where they are and what they're doing and how much they've done, and which I think is really helpful. But we had this example the other day when I spoke to we go back to club cricket, go the other way, and our club coaches want our state players playing, which I 100% encourage. But there's sometimes if they come off a big Shield game, but that they cannot necessarily bowl X amount of overs, in a club game. But if a bowler goes back and can only bowl, aim to bowl around 15 overs in a game, but then the game's on the line and he comes in and bowls 18, 19 overs to win the game for his club, then he bowls those overs. Simple as that. You can't you can't necessarily stop guys unless they're, as you say, bowling 147 overs in a game, which doesn't happen very often, bowling lots of overs. But to cap that, maybe you might have to. But if they're in a situation to win to bowl a couple of extra overs, and that's what they've got to do. Ultimately, it stresses them out a little bit more. Then you adapt to that to the week training coming forward. But ultimately, for me, it's about having those players or bowlers in that situation to win that game, and that experience. I think you can't do that at training.
And Rhino, we've got a generational group of fast bowlers at the moment, Cummo, Stark and Hazelwood, and you've had a bit to do with all three. What have we got coming through? Can someone like Spencer Johnson be a realistic chance at a test match this summer?
Short answer to that is I hope so. The problem, I guess, the problem with Spencer at the moment, he hasn't been able to get a good run at. We talk about loadings. You've got to train to play Test cricket. The old analogy is you don't just go and run a marathon tomorrow. You don't train a couple of days to run a marathon. You've got to train for it. And Spence, unfortunately, he's got a bit of an injury at the moment. He's not far away. He's a few weeks away, but spent a winter all the winter playing a lot of short form cricket. So he has to train for that. We've had those conversations. That's not talking out of the box there. Where he knows what he has to do. He wants to play red ball cricket, which I love. The fact that he's got that determination to do it. But he's got to work and get the work into him to be able to do that. But I think I look at the quicks around the country. You've got the guys that are, as you said, they mentioned the big three there are phenomenal, and hopefully they will be for a few more years yet. But obviously Boland's still there. I'm just trying to think around. There's so many quicks around. I just saw another one. Yes, Matty Elliott's son the other day, who took obviously white ball cricket. I've followed him for over a few years. He looks pretty good as well. He's got a young Bryce Jackson yesterday, who, from our point of view, we're like, this kid was good. He was swinging it at pace. He's 23 or 24. You got Lance Morris. There's a lot of good quicks around that that they're gonna obviously give themselves a bit more time, young quicks, to learn the game. But when you look back at when obviously the three leave, hopefully they don't leave at once. But there's going to be lots of good bowlers around to be able to replace them. It's just a matter of them learning the game now, learning the skill, which is obviously we all know it's probably the hardest skill in cricket.
Overall, the depth, we talked about it last week on Willow Talk with the prospect of Canberra getting involved, and Captain Canberra over here might get involved if they get involved.
They're setting you up, Rhino.
We'll wait and see. But depth, talent, is there enough for maybe another Big Bash franchise?
Well, geez, you put me on the spot. I haven't thought about that. I probably no, not at the moment. I don't think we need to expand that just yet. I don't think there's enough around. I think we've seen with I probably, the Melbourne teams, let's use them as an example, who've played in only a couple of finals, who probably haven't had the strength, or whether it's their recruiting, I'm not sure, but I just don't think we need to go too big on that. Whether the Thunder can move down there, but obviously they've got a pretty good thing here in Western Sydney. So the answer to that for me would be not yet. I think the Big Bash probably went through a little period a couple of years ago that it was sort of not on the slippery pole, but it wasn't as popular as it probably should have. And there's been a couple of changes over that time, over the last couple of years, to bring it to 10 games and make it a little bit shorter. And I think we saw last year that attendances and TV ratings were sky high again. So I don't think we need to flirt with that too much just yet. I think the product we've got at the moment is pretty good, and as I said, it got better last year. So it could be something for the future. I don't know, but and I know Canberra yelling out for a team, but probably not just yet, I don't think.
Well, this is a first on Willow Talk. The first time in 25 years Ryan Harris and I have disagreed with each other, but it had to happen sometime. Rhino, if I walk into your change room and I ask Harry Nielsen who the teacher's pet is he going to say the fast bowling group?
Yeah. And I'm just trying to think who that would be. So it would be. It would be, definitely. And that's another thing. I've had to work really hard this year, not just to go to them and talk to them all the time. I've got to talk to the rest of the players now as well. So I'm learning that as well pretty quickly, that I'm getting around to the batters and everyone else. But my go-to is still, it's habit. My go-to is still the big quicks. But I'm working on that. It's another work on. I've got a couple of work-ons to work on.
Mate, just going back to yesterday's result, there was things you did really well. The thing you did great is your team, as you said, stayed in the contest and didn't give up, which has been a trait of your whole career. So when you sit back and analyse that game, what's your takings out of it? Because there's some things, yes, you need more runs, or how do we get ourselves in that position? It's a great win, but sometimes those wins are your best learning moments to get you probably points that aren't quite positive across.
Yeah, I touched on that after the game. It was only a quick wash last night around that. We'll debrief that a bit more today, but it's just stay. As I said all along, it is a bit of the trait that I played with, as you know. It's just staying in the mode. You got to try and stay in the game as long as possible. We've done that. We had another game last year against Queensland at the Gabba where we were similar. It was a 4-day game, albeit, but very similar, where Queensland were cruising. And I just said to the boys, I think at the break when they came off last year, it was and very similar to yesterday, is that we've got the runs. It is what it is. Obviously, it might not be enough, but we just want to walk off. And when we do walk off the ground, we've done our absolute best, and both with the ball but also on the field to try and make it as hard as they can, or as we can, for WA. And they're really good at that. And I think from the game last year, they took a lot away from that game in Queensland last year, that we were probably dead and buried again, but they just fought and fought. Wicket slows the run rate. Wickets create a bit of panic in the sheds, and that's what I want them to think, that we've been through some batting woes over the time, and I sort of said to them, just what does it? We know unfortunately we know what it feels like sometimes when we lose some wickets in clumps, and so if we can put that onto other teams and cause that doubt and self doubt in the change rooms, who knows? So we did that again yesterday. I think there's a little bit to talk about today, but again, for me, we won't go into the full details, but we lose wickets in clumps at times, and we've just got to stop that. And if I've said to the boys, if we stop doing that, but if we put reasonable totals on the board, we won't lose many games, and I truly believe that, because our bowling attack's pretty good, and once we get that consistency with the bat, we'll be a good team. So that's the. I just want them to believe what they're doing. It's that belief, really. It's just trying to instill that in them, and know that what they're contracted players. They're in the the top echelon of players in Australia for a reason, and that's what I want them to believe.
Ryan Harris, really appreciate the chat, mate. Off the back of a victory, hopefully there's many more to come this summer for you and in the years to come. Hads, one last one.
One last one, mate. We're all backing you, Ryan. He's going to do a great job, but please don't lose the larrikin in you once you become
Yeah, don't get too serious.
Nah, I'm trying not to. It's hard though when you have days like yesterday. But no, I'm trying not to. So.
Appreciate the chat, mate. Thank you.
Thank you, boys. Nice to chat.
He's one of your favourites, isn't he? You could talk to him all day. I get the feeling that if you had 10 spots on a plane to take anywhere in the world to get on the PI 55 with, he'd be up on the list.
Well, he'd be number one.
Oh, he'd be number one.
The only time it wouldn't be is flying into Wellington when I flew in with them. He's scared of heights and being on a plane.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that was quite
not a
funny.
good combo.
But you know what? At the moment, he's the most successful South Australian coach ever. And a good bloke.
As we sit here right now. Let's get into Sundries, shall we? So India beat Bangladesh in the first test in Chennai. Ravichandran Ashwin. Wow. Again, player of the match, 113, 6 for 88 in the second innings. And it piqued your interest when we were having a look at this before the show because you made a very good point about where it stands in terms of his all-round ability.
Yeah, you talk about the great Ian Botham. That he's now equal with Ian Botham. 5 times they've both done it. They've got 100 in a test and taken 5 wickets as well. So, mate, age is not catching up with him. But the thing about his batting, he's getting those runs under pressure. They were in trouble when Ashwin and Jadeja come to the wicket. He got 100. He took the game on. But, yeah, it's going to be interesting when he comes out here in Australia. I know he'd love to conquer out here. How the Aussies attack him? Do they go after him? Do they sit on him?
He's a competitor, and he's a spiky competitor, as we've seen over the years. He's now got 37 5-wicket hauls in tests, equal second most with Shane Warne. Don't think he's catching Murali. 67.
Depends on how many more tests he plays at
home.
True.
Yeah, good point. Good point. But one of the big stories out of this one, the story that you're in love with.
I am in love with this.
Because he's a keeper and he's an attacking batsman.
Yeah.
Or batter. And he did really well. Rishabh Pant, 109, not out from 128 in his test return.
Well, can you think of a better comeback, not just in cricket, but in sport? We've all heard the disaster, the car accident, the state he was in, how long his rehab was. There was talk that they thought he was going to lose his leg, never been able to walk again. And to come back in and dominate a test match the way he did, it's as good as comeback story as I've ever seen. Not just from a cricket point of view, but from life. I love these sort of stories. The crowd was behind him. You could see how much it meant to him. And then on the flip side of that as well, deep down you wanted him to come back this way because he's a bums-on-seat player. He's going to bring this style to the Australians. He enjoys batting it out here. So, to me, it's my play of the year, the day, whatever you want to call it. I just think it's a great comeback story in sport.
Because I remember the last time they were out here in the middle of COVID, he got off the plane. He wasn't in the greatest of nick. And I remember, I think at one day at Drummoyne, he's complaining about a sore neck. And he's over with you. And you spent a good 15, 20 minutes talking to him about... What do you talk about? Keeping? Like, is he looking to tap into your brain a bit, or you want to get into his brain about how he goes about it?
It's just the bond between keepers. We're a weird bunch. You'd probably sit there when we're talking about the craft and walk away shaking your head. But no. As I said, he's an entertainer. It's a great story, and the Australian crowd will love him as well. So he's going to be a big wicket this summer.
Well, anyone who chooses when they don't have to wear gloves and pads and do 500 squats a day has got something wrong with them. So that's why I can't understand you, and I think a lot of cricketers would be the same as well.
I'm looking for a comeback, but I can't argue that either.
Fair enough. Hey, Sri Lanka beat New Zealand by 64 runs. Great test match in Gaul. Prabhath Jayasuriya was player of the match with 9 wickets. Experienced player that he is. But they've got a youngster, a young up-and-coming player, Sri Lanka. Kamindu Mendes, 114. He's now 4 tons in 7 tests, averages 75. Now, get to the end of our summer, and we go over there, don't we? I'll be fascinated to see how he goes against us on their decks.
Well, he plays his home conditions well. But the one thing different to Mendes at the moment, he's getting his hundreds everywhere. He's performed in the UK. He's obviously performing well at home. And the true test is going to be when he comes up against us at the end of our summer. So at the moment, he's an attractive batter to watch. They like to take the game on, which is good. So... Yeah, but the one thing I like most about him is he's doing it in all conditions, and that doesn't always happen for a subcontinent player straight at the start of their career. They do struggle when they go away from home, but yeah, let's just see after 20 tests where he's at, but at the moment, it's been all class.
Yeah, the 3 tests he played in the recent English summer, a half century at least in each of the 3 tests, including a century at Old Trafford. With Sri Lanka, I was looking at their 11 actually in this test match, and I hark back to the days when, it was Ranatunga, it was De Silva, and then Joe Soria got going, and then obviously Malinga and Murali. They had world recognised names in their lineup for a very long time. You look at this lineup now and you go, they're short of that. They've got some very good cricketers, don't get me wrong, but you mentioned it before about Rishabh Pant, a bums-on-seat type player. This guy could be it.
Yeah, he could be. They got Nasenka as well, the opening batsman. He's done well. He got a great 100 against England when they won. But I think they'll play their home conditions well. They won't be afraid of Australia when we go over there because the way the surface is. That you might only see one fast bowler, a couple of left-arm orthodox spinner, and they do play their home conditions well. But they're missing a couple of world-class players. There's no Sangakkara in there at the moment. There's no Jay Wardner. So maybe Mendes is it.
That's what I mean. And 2 more of those names you just mentioned there in Sri Lankan cricketing greats. Is Sri Lanka, and we'll talk about it later after the summer, no doubt, is Sri Lanka the most defined surface you can play on, or is it Bangladesh? Like India, okay, we talk about India a lot, and Pakistan, but is that one of the trickiest, if not the trickiest place to go?
Oh, it's similar to Indian conditions. That it'll be obviously a slow turn. But I've also played games in Colombo on wickets that go through. I remember playing a World Cup game in 2011 against Pakistan, and the wicket flew. And there's grounds like the SSC where Jay Wardner just didn't get out, and you just bat and bat and bat, and got to find a way to get a result on day 5. But the Aussies won't get that wicket. They'll get one that turns from the first session.
One last one on this test match. There was a rest day during the test, so Sri Lanka players could go and vote. Now, obviously, they've had a bit of political instability in that country in recent times. But would you, they used to do this all the time, halfway through, never played on Sundays back in the day. Would you have loved a rest day in the middle of a test match?
No? I wouldn't. I wouldn't have trusted myself.
Or some of your teammates. Correct?
What happens if you're out just before the rest day, or you've just bowled the team out and knowing you don't have to bat for probably the next 2 days?
Having been in my media career to Wimbledon when the dying days of the middle Sunday off, I can assure you that the handbrake wasn't on that Saturday night.
No.
And that would be the case in... Even professional cricketers wouldn't be able to help themselves.
Yeah, it would be tempting. The other thing in the modern game, you're meant to have a break.
Yeah.
The modern day, you'd be out playing golf, you'd be on your legs all day. I remember Rod Marsh. He used to talk very fondly of a rest day in England in the test matches. So, don't they vote on the Friday before?
It's weird. Yeah, no pre-postal in Sri Lanka, apparently. You can't do it. You have to rock up. Wonder if they have the democracy barbecue happening as well. Anyway. Hey, last one. So David Warner. We think it was for a Bollywood movie. We're hoping it's for a Bollywood movie because he was holding a gun to someone's head. Anyway, last week, photos emerged of David Warner dressed like Elvis holding a golden gun on the Yarra in Melbourne in what appears to be some part of a Bollywood film. We sent the pics through to the Social Cricket Club and asked the members to come up with a movie title. So some of them are redacted, but the ones that made it through the censors, Bullseye, what do you go, 00 Bull or 00 Bull, Boldfinger, Rubbed Out, Warnerwood, Petite Prince, The Big Boss's Angry Little Helper, and instructional video, why you should keep your finger off the trigger. So thank you for those. David Warner, the actor. There you go.
I love it.
Making the most of his post-test match career.
I love it. I just think it'll be great. It'll be great viewing. We've seen him on TikTok during COVID. He was very active there. Mate, it'll be good. It'll be good fun to watch. The players will enjoy it, but I thought more bull in a china shop.
He'd be getting a pretty little penny for it as well, I imagine.
Bollywood. He's got 10 million followers. He's huge over there. So, mate, you'll bring bums on seats to a Bollywood. I know Binger did one.
Did you give him crap about that? Oh, that was my next
we were
question.
in one.
Oh, you were in
Sure.
one?
Yeah.
When? And how did it come about?
Oh, it was years and years ago when we were playing. We had to do a scene at the SCG.
So you were in that scene with
Yeah.
I can only remember Brett Lee and the interesting cut of the director, how he was cutting around a cricket. Stuart Clark was in it as
Yeah,
well.
Stuart Clark was in
Yeah.
it. There's a few. I can't really. I've sort of tried to put it out of my mind. It pops up on my socials now and then when.
Was it bigger than Ben Hur, the
Huge.
set and
Mate,
everything?
it would have been massive. It was second biggest gross into Wolverine, I think.
What? In India?
I don't know. I try to forget those days, but I am looking forward to David.
Did you get a wedge from it?
Can't remember.
Ah, come on. You remember these things. So who convinced you to do it? Like Bingo asked for a couple of the guys to
price.
help him with it? Or
There's only one reason you do it
yeah.
is the price tag.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. I'm going to delve into that more
No,
one day.
don't.
When we get Brett Lee in here eventually, he's elusive. He's elusive, Brett Lee, but we'll get him in here and we'll go through the whole story of that
Oh,
one.
God.
That's it for Willow Talk this edition. Thank you, Ads.
Keep it real.
Back with more Willow Talk soon. Yeah, thanks for watching the Willow Talk podcast on YouTube. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button so you don't have to miss an episode wherever you are. And while you're at it, check out these videos up here. They're mostly good.